Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome back to Black Rose Wars and the SATOR Kickstarter stretch goal box. As a reminder, this is for the original version of Black Rose Wars, and not the revised or Rebirth. Rebirth is the spiritual successor sequel game, basically, updated some stuff. And then the revised edition will be a re-implementation of the core box and some of the expansions to fit the Rebirth model, which did update and fix some stuff. As of this video, they said they're not reprinting they're not reprinting the SATOR, this stretch goal box. Does not mean they might not over time reprint parts of it. The One School Void has been reprinted in the Lex box, or the Ghouls Void box. Not the Lex box, the Void box has been void. So it's possible they'll occasionally maybe come back and pull some of these out, or they might re-implement them somewhere else, but they had no intentions of reprinting it as a one-to-one. There's also supposed to be an upgrade for this set, for the expansion for this, up to the new stuff, so they might reprint the schools and stuff, and some of the character cards and stuff to fix that, but I don't know what's in there because the video hasn't been released yet. So if you didn't watch part one, what I went through is just a brief overview of what was everything in the box, as well as some of the new implemented rules for some of the new stuff that kind of again brought it more into what Rebirth eventually did, as a base thing. And then what we're doing with the rest of the box is we're breaking it down, much like Rebirth's Rotas box did, is into 6 different little mini expansions, plus we'll do a separate video for solo mode. So each one will just be each one will just be its own separate thing. It'll have somewhere between 2+ mages in it, 1 to 2 schools in it, any evocations that are relevant to that, and then there's the campaign mode, which we'll also go through. Each one, so I broke it up into each campaign for each video, then that way, it's kind of breaking them down, taking everything in chunks. And then each of the videos, just as a thing before we hop into them, is I broke them down as my own names I gave them, are Corrupt Power, Ancient Times, that one will also have the Sin Tempor crossover in it, Rising Sun, Legendary Tales, Natural Force, and Learning Curve. And again, so there'll be 6 different videos there, as well as, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it'll be six videos there, as well as the solo play, and then finally the very last video I'll do is I'll actually do a comparison to all the different reprinted cards. So let's go ahead and hop into this video. Alright, the theme of this set is going to be called Ancient Times. It's focusing on 2 different schools, one being Enhancement, which works as a forge, and it kind of went back to thinking older, using older forging tools and stuff like that. We get some new equipment cards to go with that set, which is really cool. Otherwise, we did have some equipment in the Mythology set with Chronos. You would have some there, as well as there are some in Rebirth and stuff as well. And then the other hand is Chronomancy, which kind of fits with the time elements. We have hand-forged weapons, and then playing around with time. And that's kind of also going to fix in with, we have one of the mages we have is old Jukas. And Jukas is one of the characters that has been throughout all of Nova Yekis. So we're also going to go over his crossover stuff with Sin Tempor, which is the first game chronologically, so he can go back and play him as there. He's already in the game. This just gives him an alternate version. Some cool cards, because he can travel through time and stuff. And then he also has cards for Nova Yekis, the original, not Renaissance. And there are some cool other evocations in some rooms, and some stuff that are going to go with this, as well as a scenario. So we're going to start off with, for the Enhancement one, the mage that kind of fits that the best is Bronte, who is our Cyclopsian friend. So the Cyclopses love to forge and stuff. So he has 8 hand size and 11 health with his 2 and 2. Here is his miniature. So he's a little bit bigger than the other guys. He's definitely hefty. He got fire on his hammer, looks really cool. And then, yeah, we do have, another Cyclops in Rebirth, Enta, I believe, if I remember right, who is his successor, if I remember right, and my lore might be off. So that's really fun that we get that. And he has a very similar school with having stuff with equipment as well. So they kind of theme together. It'd be a fun little team up. Um, and then like I was reading stuff on Singtempo, which again takes place 1,000 years in the past, but it's in outer space. And one of the races that was up there, which are the primeval, which are the ones in Nova Electus Renaissance with your fawns and stuff like that, your fawns, centaurs, things like that we get to see. But the other one was the race of Cyclopses, who had big giant armor and stuff on because they were in space, but when they landed on Earth, then they kind of switched over to more tactical stuff. So his asymmetrical side, which adds some difference, his hand size drops down to 6, but he has 12 health. So he's a little bit more durable, but he has 3 different abilities. So he's got a little cube boxes with double punches. Instead of one of the 2 standard effects, using an action token, the mage can make a attack a model twice with the same room. So he can use a action token to do a double attack instead of a move attack. Or he has, instead of the 1-2 standard effects using an action token, the mage can move up to the mage's end attack a model in the same room. So he can use one of his actions to move and attack. So either double attack or move and attack. So he's got some moves on him. And then his last special ability is, as an action, a mage can discard an unactivated spell to move up to 2 spaces instead of 1. So you can get some extra attacks, extra movements. So there's a little bit more versatility there. We saw some of the other characters that had stuff that had, and we might see in some of these other guys too, that had stuff that manipulated the points at the end game and how you did stuff there, or boosted minions. He kind of just gets extra attacks, so he can go a little bit more physical. Alright, his signature cards, and zoom in on those a little bit, are Alina's Anvil. So it says, summon equipment evocation of your choice under your control from any school in place. Now, this is a really fun one because, like I said, the enhancements going to have a bunch here. Mythology had some. And then, I want to say it was the Forge School from Rebirth also had some as well. And I want to say there was one other school that had a couple. But I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, as they add more of these, kind of like, same thing, you summon demons or undead or constructs and manipulates the evocations. This is fun. You got another guy that can manipulate equipment specifically. Otherwise, we have remove target equipment, summon that equipment under your control. So this lets you get rid of somebody else's, or you could get rid of your own and resummon it. And why would you want to do that? Maybe if it has, because they'll have their own health values, so maybe if the health value is getting low, like you had some armor, and it has 3 health and it's taking 2 damage, you could resummon it, basically reforge your armor. So that's actually a pretty cool idea there. Alright, so our next mage up is David Chavon, I think it's pronounced. Let's call him Deep Chavon on here. Yeah, so he kind of wants to be, I think, more with, like, the illusion. Definitely spell school. He's got, like, the masks on, and he's invisible. But we're going to put him with Chronomancy, just for the sake of the set, because not every single guy matches 100%. So he has 10 cards in his hand and 9 health. So a little less cards, but he has more options. Here's his miniature, though. His miniature is pretty cool, because he's supposed to be invisible, right? So he has, like, a gap where his arm would be, because you can't see it. He has no face in there. That arm part is missing as well, his legs. Even, like, right there on the knee. Right in there's missing. It's a pretty cool way to do a invisible-ish model. When he has all these different face masks you can slap in there so you don't know who he is. Yeah, that's it. It's pretty interesting. I love the little lines on the back of the cloak too. Just that little extra detail in there too. I don't know how the hell I would paint any of those masks unless you just paint them all the same color. I mean, I'm not a good enough painter. Obviously, there's people out there that can paint them super well, but I'm not one of them. Alright, what does he get to do? So he has a double-sided one with double traps on it. So it says Submerged Theater. So when a mage enters a room, he or she needs to choose. So this is the illusion magic that he gets to use. The happy one for you is suffer 1 damage and you play his or her last spell, or suffer 4 damage. So that's kind of crazy. So if they enter the blue room, it's just generally like the illusionary type rooms. Either they can suffer 1 damage, but you get to play their last spell again. If they determine I can't let you do that, then they have to choose 4 damage. I love cards that force my opponent to choose versus me having to choose, because it's just, hey, you're getting a negative effect either way, but then you can't yell at me as much on which one you get. The other one is a trap for a purple room. This is when a mage enters your room, you immediately move 1 and cast your next spell. So cool. So it kind of lets him like pop out of somewhere and cast a spell. Probably more beneficial if you're targeting that purple room, like you're hanging out around it, so you can get to it quicker and maybe cast into it. But that's still pretty fun. We did not look at the back side of his card. I forgot to show that off quick. So now he has 8 hand, but 10 health, so they kind of change a little bit. This is also interesting. He has 3 movement, he has 0 attacks. They did adjust that on there, so not a lot of the guys change too much on that. But he basically doesn't care about attacking, so he wants to do manipulative stuff. And this card, he starts the game with 2 custom spells instead of 1. So he gets to use 2 of his cards right off the bat, so he can set traps more often. The second one is a little model with an X next to it. It says the mage does not get damage from spells, from target spells for a single. So if something just targets a model, he does not take damage from it. So he can kind of avoid it. So he has to have something that's going to target a mage specifically, or has to target a room. Like, so if he just gets targeted by himself, it doesn't happen. So he's going to stay alive a little bit longer for that. Then the last thing on there has the rose, which I'm trying to find in the book here. As one of the mage's 2 actions per turn, or 2 actions, a mage can lose 1 PP to rotate one of his spells not activated, thus changing the active side. So yeah, he gets to start with stuff, multiple spells, and then he also gets, not start with them, he has them in his deck. We also flip around his spells, so he has a lot more different activation, he can dodge stuff. So it's going to be very interesting to play as an asymmetrical mage. Alright, then our last one is our time traveler. We have Old Jukas, who has 10 cards in hand and has 9 health. And then if we take a look at his miniature, so he's a battle-warring character. He's been going through all this different times. He's a little bit more futuristic. The armor built into him. He's got a big giant staff. You can't really see it in this one as much, but he has a glowing green arm. I wish I had bigger full pictures, because he has Gaia's crystal in his arm. But yeah, so that's pretty interesting there. Which is one of the things. He has a battle with, he has a feud with Kronos, so he kind of ties into the Kronos side as well. Because he's manipulating time, and Kronos doesn't like that. So now he has 10 cards in hand, 9 health. He has X, mage with an X. It says, when a mage is defeated, no one gets the mage's trophies. So even if he's defeated, he doesn't give out trophies. He has the -1 on his power point. He can flip a spell over. And then he has the little card box of 3. Instead of one of the 2 standard actions, by using an action token, mage can heal 3. So he can keep healing himself. So that's kind of fun as well. Now let's take a look at his spells. So they have the 2 different colors on here, so they kind of go with what they might work with. So the top one, I believe, is the Chronomancy one, which would make sense for him. And the bottom one is Void. So it kind of gives him 2 different spell schools he might link in. I think that's a neat way of doing these character cards. If they would, their personal things, they kind of lean towards 1 or 2 different schools to have that background on there to match the cards. So look at the first 4 quests of the previous moon. Exchange one of these quests with one of yours. Reshuffle the others back in the same deck and gain a PowerPoint. So it's going to help him manipulate what quest is. It's avoid from the past to void. And on the other side, he has place 2 instability in target room and then activate it. So that's kind of cool. So you either get some different quests or activate it. So very different skills that he gets to do. Alright, so let's go ahead and hop into our schools. Let's look at our equipment, our enchantment one first. So here's our enchantment. It has lots of different colored spells in there. And it's violent weaponry and chosen of Agigal. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that one. Alright, and then we'll look at the equipment as it comes. So we'll set that off to the side. So we're going to start with our first one, which is All Our Heroes Gladius. So summon Alahirios Gladius, you may immediately move 1 and attack. I'm going to find that one. And then on the flip side of that, it says inflict 2 damage to the target. If you have the symbol, you may attack. Oh, so if you have that specific weapon, that's kind of cool. Alright, so that's going to show this, right? So here we have his, so if you have his sword, you may attack. So this just normally does 2 damage to the target, it's not bad, but if you also have his Gladius, you get to attack as well. So I have the second time. This does 2 damage, cannot attack rooms, and the range of your attacks is 2. So you can attack a little bit at a distance. So that is kind of fun. I'm just going to check the book to see if it had any other special information about these. I don't think it really did. Yeah, just in case you're not familiar with equipment, our type of evocation empowered by the mage is some of them. Like normal invocations, they occupy one of the 3 dedicated spaces on the mage sheet. Each equipment card shows the name of the object on the front, health points, and game effect. Spell cards. If the equipment icon is present on a spell card on the enchantment school, the linked effect can be activated. So that kind of makes them very useful for this. In the lodge, equipment items do not use a token or miniature are considered equipped by the mage and are identified by their card alone. Damage and health points. Equipment can be targeted as if an evocation is equipped in the mage's room. Nevertheless, you do not suffer the room effect damage like other models. Present in their icon. When equipment is struck by an enemy effect, the attacker assigns damage to their colors like normal. When the damage tokens on your equipment card reaches a number of health points, it breaks and the mage removes it. So yeah, they attach to your character, they take up one of your evocation slots, and then as they take damage, so someone targets an evocation, they can target that. If they target you as a mage, they're still hitting you. If they target the room, it doesn't affect it. It's just going to hit the mage instead. But if they target as an evocation or a model that can target either, you can go ahead and try and destroy their weaponry. So it's pretty fun. Alright, our next one up is Tartarus's Hammer. So summon Tartarus's Hammer, you may move and attack. I like that every time you summon these guys, you get an automatic thing. You usually can activate them, so it kind of makes sense. If you have the hammer, before selecting the room, you may move twice. Inflict 3 damage to all models in the target room and 1 damage to all models in target adjacent room. So yeah, this is a fun mechanic too, because you get a little bonus for having a specific item equipped, but if you don't, you still get to do stuff. Here's the hammer. So it has 3 health, and your damage is a room. So every time you hit, you just smack an entire room. So that's pretty cool. Then we have Alina's Battle Axe. So summon Alina, Athena's Battle Axe. You may immediately move and attack. And if we flip to the other side, inflict 2 damage to the target. Move the target to an adjacent room. Oh, so you smack them away. If you have it, you may also attack. Cool. And then we have her Axer has 3 health, and your damage inflicts +1. It's a big giant battle axe. So it kind of looks like that might be like the axe it has on there. That could be That's the hammer he has on there. So he's kind of carrying all the weapons on him. Which are kind of fun. Alright. Then we have Poseidon's Bracers. Summons Poseidon Bracers and gain a point. On the other side, change the element of 2 spells you play to any element you want, gain 1 point. If you have the bracers, gain an additional point. Ooh, that's fun. Change the elements. Lots of times that's not going to make a difference, but if you're trying to complete quests, that's going to be very helpful. Because, yeah, then you can, like, oh, I need to hit with 2 fire or this. You don't have to play around with it as much. Alright, so Poseidon Bracers have all your spells with the magic or sacred element are considered any kind. Nice, if you're definitely trying to hit specific things. That'll be super helpful. Punishment Breastplate. Summon the Punishment Breastplate. All other models in adjacent rooms suffer 1 damage. On the other side, we have suffer 1 damage from the target model. Convert 4 damage on them. If you have it, inflict 2 damage to the model. Ooh, so you can do 3, but then you also get you inflict another 2, but you have to take 1 damage from them, but you get to convert 4 on them. So it's pretty interesting. So here we have this one. So some of these, you notice they did have, they didn't have that crossed out, the no rooms, like the hammer and the bracers and stuff. So they can be hit with anything. It just depends on which one it is. So there's a crazy breastplate. So there's like a face in it and some arms. It kind of looks like what Kronos wears. There's a big giant chest and his arms on him, so it kind of looks like that. Inflict 1 damage to whoever inflicts you 3 or more damage with a single effect. So someone smacks you, you do damage back to them. Then we have Thus's Ring. Summon Thus's Ring. Draw one quest card from the current moon deck. And on the other hand, draw 1 card from the current moon deck. Quest from the current moon deck. If you have the ring, any moon deck instead of the current one. I wonder if this is like supposed to be a Lord of the Rings reference. You're going on a quest. Each time you draw 1 quest, draw 2 instead and choose 1 and discard the other. Oh, so that makes it even cooler. So when you get to do that, you get better options. Alright, so that was the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that was the 6 equipment cards. Now, were those the 6? Yes, this is also kind of neat. So we have the Battle Axe Hammer and Gladius in 1, and then we have the Ring, Braces, and Breastplates in the other one. So you don't get all 6 of them in one thing. So if you're starting off, you only get half of them. Alright, then we have Bronte's Wrath. Targeting evocation, remove it, the owner suffers 2 damage. So you can like get rid of evocations as well as equipment. So someone else is summoning equipment. Put 2 damage to the target model, ignoring protection spells, heal yourself by 1. We have Argus Psych. Activate target room. You may lose 1 point to activate another room adjacent to the one you selected. On the flip side, we have... Whoop, text is upside down. Target room. If you complete a quest before the end of your turn, you may draw 1 card from the Grimoire, the library, or the current moon. Oh, that's neat. So activate a target room if you complete a quest before the end of your turn. You draw one. If you have that ring, then you can draw more cards as well. That's fun. Here we have Tribute to Aegean. Draw one of your uncompleted... Discard one of your uncompleted quests to complete another request from the same moon deck. Gain only half the prize points, rounded down to 1. Keep the completed quest. Interesting. So this has lots of neat things with equipment, but also completing quests. Look at the first 3 quests of the current moon. You may lose 1 point for each quest you want to draw. Place the others to the bottom of your deck. Violent Retort. Reduce the damage suffered by 2 + 1 for each evocation you have. So it doesn't care if it's an equipment or not. It wouldn't interest me if it's like equipment, but that might be a little bit harder to pull off. Ignore the next trap you trigger and put 2 damage plus 1 for each evocation you have to the mage who owns the trap. Stereops Intuition. Discard one of your completed or uncompleted quests to gain a point. You're drawing a lot of cards, that's probably not that big of a deal. With the first quest of the current moon, you may solve it if you discard one of your quests and lose points equal to the current moon. Interesting. Then the final one we have are Dancing Blades. Summon the Dancing Blades. And then one of your evocations gains +1 move and +2 attack and can act immediately. Remove this evocation after the action is complete. So, we have Dancing Blades. I thought we had all the equipment because we did. This is an actual summonable evocation. So here are our Dancing Blades. I'm sure this is a homage to Kratos. With the double chained bladed swords that are on fire. Potentially. So I say they're flaming, but they're not actually. So let's take a look at their card here. So there's the back one. So that's actually like crystalline blades. You get 3 of them throughout the game. And what do they do for us? So Dancing Blades are a construct. So if you have anything that affects constructs, it'll affect these as well. They have 2 movement, 3 attack, and 2 health. Can never take more than 1 damage as a single effect. So yeah, these guys are kind of, you just summon them, and then you get to kind of fly around and do damage to people. Which is really kind of a neat little idea. You summon, like, sentient type blades. And then you even have the other side. You get 1 movement and 2 attack, but then you have to remove them after the action is complete. So, I mean, if you can move in 3 spaces, do 5 damage, that's pretty crazy. And then sacrifice them. So that's really neat. That is our first spell. So the enchantment with all the equipment and stuff, which is really cool. Alright, let's hop into our second group, which is going to be Chronomancy. Alright, so we're going to hop into the time powers of Chronomancy. So you have Time Assassin and Time Collector. Should be very interesting. So, the Chronomancy does have a special effect. It says, interruption from the Chronomancy skill can be played from the hand to hinder opponents. Some Chronomancy spells have the interrupt effect, so they'll have a little hand down there instead of the combat or contingency or trap or protection. Plus, they're kind of yellow like that. Both their effects shown the same way, but have different colors. To play a standard effect, follow the normal rules to activate the stop effect. The card must be played directly from your hand during an opponent's turn. Each of the effects can only be played on a specific situation indicated. For the same specific situation, it's possible to play all the interrupted cards you want, draw them one at a time, and discarding them to your memories. So this is going to be interesting, because it's the only one I know of that lets you literally play cards from your hand to stop stuff. Or to manipulate the game field. So let's see what those do. So we're going to start with Paralyze. Excuse me. So Paralyze is a trap. This is a mage that declares he or she wants to perform a physical action. That mage will lose a physical action unless they pay you 1 point. So you're going to stop them in place unless they give you points. A mage completes a physical action. If that mage wants to cast a spell, their second action, you may steal 1 point from her. So one stops them unless they want to pay you. The other one lets them cast it. But you just steal a point from them. So it's kind of interesting. Alright, then we have Teleportation. Move the target mage to any room and steal 1 point from him or her. On the other hand, we have an Interrupt. Says when a mage enters your room, you may immediately discard this card from your hand to shift to any other room, losing 1 point. Oh, that's kind of cool, right? So if you just hang on to that, this kind of be a neat one to it could work well with any school, because it's like, hey, I need to be able to get the heck away from them. So you can definitely use this regardless if you're playing other stuff. That's fun. Here we have Embroidered Future. It's a trap for a red room. Mage that enters the room pays you 1 point. or you may play one spell from your hand on him or her. Interesting. So I wonder, though, it says, Mage enters room, pays you 1 point, or you may play a spell. So I wonder if they have the option. That's how I would read it, is they can opt to pay you 1. If they do not want to pay you 1, then you get to play a spell. The other side is to enter a yellow room. Mage enters the room, pays you 1 point, or you may play a contingency spell. So I'd say the same thing for that. I'd say they first have the option to pay you 1. If they refuse to pay you 1 point, then you get to play your spell. So we have Reflect spell. When you would suffer the effects of a spell with a target room, redirect the spell back to your caster's room as if you had cast the spell. Oh, dang. Imagine if you hit with like a forgotten spell, right? That would be nuts. On the other hand, when you would suffer the effect of a spell with a target model, redirect it back to the caster. I love that. I love Reflect magic. Rewind time. The next combat spell you suffer, send its caster back to his or her cell unless he or she pays you 1. Interesting. So a lot of these can be canceled fairly easy by paying 1 point, which you might be like, well, that's not much. If it's like, yeah, 1 every great once in a while, probably not. But if you have 4 spells out and every single spell is going to cost someone to lose a point, and you're costing everyone like 1 or 2 points every round, or if they don't want to pay it, like they can probably pay it once or twice, but if they're paying it every time, they're not going to be gaining a lot every turn. Or you're going to be casting a bunch of stuff on them, which could be definitely worse. They might just be like, I can't afford to let you hit me with this spell. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. It'd be an interesting gameplay mechanic. This one says ignore a trap and gain 2 points. That trap is still considered to be active. Ooh, that's fun. So basically, like you stepped into the room and someone's like, I activate my trap. And you're like, nope, I ignore that trap. But that trap stays out for someone else to walk into. Hopefully not you, like on your next turn. Time Disjunction. The next combat spell you suffer, shift its caster to any room in the lodge. Interesting. So that would be interesting. Like, they can't target themselves, but you could, if you have a trap laid out, like they hit you, and then you could send them to like the red room, right? Like, yeah, imagine if you did that. If they hit you with you have your protection spell out, your first one. They hit you with a combat spell. Okay, great. You're going to take the damage. You're going to move them to the red room. Enters the red room. It said now you can deal, pays you 1 point, or you can play a spell on them, right? So that'd be kind of crazy to do, right? So send them into the room, and all of a sudden now I'm like, hey, you hit that red room. Now I get to cast the spell right back at you. And then imagine even if, I wonder if you had Reflect magic. That's only if it targets the room, too. Interesting. But that might stop it from hitting you. We can look at the other side. The next physical attack you suffer, shift your attacker to any room in the lodge. So same idea. That's cool. Slow magic. A mage casts a spell range is decreased by 1 and you gain a point. Ooh. Haven't seen a lot of the interrupts. You got a couple more coming. A mage casts a spell must be cancelled if it is the same type as a caster's previous standard spell, unless the mage pays you 1. So again, you're going to punish them for casting the same spell twice, or same type, double combats. Paradox. A mage that enters this room every time activate, he or she needs to pay you 1, or activate in his or her place. This effect lasts until the end of the turn. Oh, so if they enter the room and then every time they try to activate that room, they have to pay 1, or you get to activate it instead. That's pretty interesting. And the bottom one is for blue rooms. A mage that enters this room, steal 1 point from that mage, shift him or her to any room in the lodge. The mage continues their action from there. So cool. So if they're doing like, 2 movement and they step first one to the blue room, you can shift them all the way across the map. Oh, that's pretty fun. Here we have Time Terror. Inflict 2 damage to all mages in the target room. Inflict 1 damage more for each quest they need to complete. Interesting. Then we have an interrupt with, a mage draws a quest, you may immediately discard this card from your hand, inflict 2 damage to him or her, and then lose a point. We have Clockwork Golem. Summon the Clockwork Golem, which we'll look at the end of this deck. And the Clockwork Golem interrupts is, discard this card from your hand during the cleanup phase to allow one of your evocations to activate immediately. The Black Rose inflicts 2 damage on you. So that was a punishment to interrupting stuff. But it's probably worth paying. Wither, a mage that enters the Grey Room, inflict 2 damage plus 1 for each used physical action on all the mages in the room to all models in the room. Oh, dang. So they enter there, you do 2 damage plus 1 for each physical action, so they probably at least have 1. But then it says to all the mages in the room, or all the mages, so multiple might have acted. Oh, that's crazy. Then the green one says, mage enters the room, steal 1 point from all the mages in that room. If there's only 1 mage, steal 2 from him or her. And then the last card of this set is Alter Gravity. Inflict 3 damage to all models in the target room. The interrupt is when a mage activates, you may immediately discard this card from your hand to inflict 2 damage to him or her, and then lose 1 point. That's definitely a fun set. Some combat spells, some interrupts, lots of traps, though. Setting stuff up, which is, the time manipulation, I think they worked in very well for how that can work. Alright, so then we had summon a Clockwork Golem. So we have a big giant clock guy here. Let's just take a look at his miniature. We have 3 of them in the set. They're the bigger base ones. I like how he's hanging off the edge a little bit. Which works for this, but I wonder how that's going to work for, like, in Rebirth and stuff. Granted, they're not going to reprint this, but I don't know. You wouldn't be able to put a point or a ring underneath him, because his hand might be in the way. So that might be interesting, if you're mixing it with the Rebirth stuff. But yeah, he's pretty... Love the little wooden things. Very geary. It's going to be very interesting to paint something like this. Alright, so what does the Clockwork Golem do for us? So, if we summon him, so it's awesome, we got 2 more summons in this. He's another construct. 2 movement, 2 attack, 3 health. Clockwork Golem may activate during any phase. Once per round, a mage can only have 1 Clockwork Golem under his control. Interesting. Okay, so there might... I mean, that might not be as big of an issue unless multiple people are summoning them. Because then at least you're not going to have to worry about what's your first, second, and third slot. But can activate during any phase. So you kind of just to play around with that time aspect. So that's pretty fun. Alright. So that was our 2 spell schools. Very different from each other, but definitely very cool effects. Alright. Then we have some forgotten spells. So we have Rose Garden, which says, summon Bullo in the Black Rose Room. Then you can suffer 5 damage from the Black Rose to activate the Black Rose Room without discarding any cards. So we can summon an evocation, and then we can take damage if we want to draw another card to basically replace that. Replace this card, so that's kind of fun. On the other side, we have summon Bullo in the Black Rose Room, then shift all other mages into the Black Rose Room. Bullo attacks everyone. Oh, that's fun too. I like that either one summons him, because usually like one side summons and one side just has like a other effect. But that's really cool that we get to summon him both ways. So that brings us to a new evocation. So he's a beast type. So you got a big giant armored plated bull. Let's take a look at him. And there's also this is Bull O, like letter O. There's also a Bull Y in Sing Tempor. So this is a very, like, distant relative of his. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, look at that big giant sword guy. Definitely looks like he's going to beat you down. Alright, what are his stats? So we have to worry about taking damage from him. He has 2 movement, 4 attack, and 4 health. If Bull is in the Black Rose Room, it can't be targeted by spells or suffer damages. At the beginning of the cleanup phase, if Bull is not in the Black Rose Room, it suffers 1 damage and moves to the Black Rose Room. Interesting. So yeah, you could have him charge out and do a bunch of damage, but he's always going to get sent back. But yeah, you pull everyone to that one room, and then have him deal damage. Hits 4 to everybody, to all other mages. That's pretty nuts. That's really fun. I like these. I like the forgotten guys. They're really fun because they can be a little bit more powerful because you're not going to get them nearly as often. And then once you summon them, you have 1 chance with them. So cool. Then our other one is we have Wrath of God, which is of course I'm sure like a Magic the Gathering reference. Remove all evocations in play, including your evocations, and sending all the mages to their cells, including yourself. Gain 1 point for each evocation removed to a max of 4. So like Magic the Gathering, Wrath of God wipes the board. This is basically what that's doing. On the flip side, we have remove all the evocations of the target mage and summon all of them under your control, gain 1. Now, what happens with that is if you have any evocations already, and let's say you have 3 already and you gain 3, you can decide which ones to discard and which ones to keep. So you might be like, oh, I have an undead linger snitching from the core set, and then I have a mutant altar, and I ended up pulling out Bully, right? And then you gain like a Dancing Blade, Clockwork Golem, and a Arpy from Chrono or from Inferno, right? You might be like, I'm gonna keep my Bolo. I'm going to swap out for the Dancing Blade and for the Clockwork Golem, right? It's just kind of neat. You can kind of play around with that. If nothing else, it just ditch all your opponent's stuff, even if you want to keep all yours. So that is really fun there. So that is all of our different spells for the game. So now we're going to look at the Legendary Scenario. So the scenarios are part of the Black Rose Wars campaign, which I did go over in video part 1 if you want to go back and get a little bit more detail. But the basic idea of the campaign mode is playing these 7 legendary scenarios, which I'm going over some of them in each wiggle of these videos, in a row, and then you add up your points at the end of each victory of one, and then at the end you'll have a total or final score to see how well you did. But you can play all of them completely separately. So I'm going through each one as a separate thing. So this one, we are going to look at Buddha Hungry, the Lodge of Keepers. So this one's going to have some extra components. I have 3 Blade Barrier tokens and 2 rooms, the Assassin's Brotherhood and the Theater, which we'll look at all of those in this ones. So the setup for this is follow the standard Black Rose War setup indicated on the core box. To create, use the indicated map on here, down here, for setup of the game. Before stepping out of the game, the player ranked last in the previous game chooses 3 schools to be used during the game, other than Blood, Illusion, and Conspiracy. So this is what makes this kind of fun, because they want you to specifically use those 3, and then pick 3 other ones. So as you're playing through them, if you're just playing this offhand, like a one-off thing, you can pick any other 3 ones you'd like, but you have to use those 3 for the scenario. Which is a fun way to like force you to have to try combinations that you might not have tried already. Replace the Alchemy Laboratory with the Assassin's Brotherhood. Place this room adjacent to the Black Room, but not adjacent to the Throne Room or the Theater. Place the Orca Room with the Theater, but not adjacent to the other one. Place the Blade Barriers indicated at Barrier of Blade tokens as indicated. So here we go. Here's our map. There's Ezio Auditore from Assassin's Creed. So that's how you want to play your maps. You have the Black Rose Room, the Treasure Room, and then you'll have your 3 blades there, and then you just gotta put the other 2 rooms somewhere on the outside, just not next to that. So it's probably in like one of these other 3 spots here. And then they go on the outside. So it's more or less a basic setup. So what do we have here? Blade Bearers. These evocations use the Room Infestations rules on page 4. Are not but are not targeted and cannot be removed from the game in any way. So we get these 3 blade tokens. They're going to be summoned on the board. They're double-sided, so it doesn't matter which side you look at. Blade bearers are considered to be under the control of the Black Rose. They do damage. So the damage they dealt is from it. If a mage moves any model, major evocation not under the control into the room containing a barrier blade, that model suffers 2 damage from the mage who moved it. So if a mage moves a model in there, so yeah, like that's saying, if you walk into that room, you take the damage the Black Rose disappoint. If you move someone, you push them, teleport them, shove them, whatever, then you gain the thing. Like, we had the hammer that's going to let you do that. We had the chronomancy time thing that's going to let you do that. So there's a bunch of different ways to do that. Blade Bearer tokens move in a clockwise direction, always remaining inside the rooms adjacent to the Black Rose. The Crown Order moves all the tokens clockwise in one room. Each time a player uses a physical action token. Oh, dang. I didn't even realize that. So they spin around the board, so they're going to keep going in a circle around here. So you have to, if you want to get to the Black Rose room, you're going to have to, like, run through one of these rooms. But if you want to use any of these other rooms, you're going to have to be very careful. And obviously, if you stop one of them, other players are probably going to want to use physical action tokens just to advance them. Honorable mention, lethal pushes. You have dealt damage to opposing mages using the Blade Bearers, or you eliminate an evocation under your opponent's control, and 1 VP for Mass SM. You summoned Ezio and killed a mage with him. So very cool. So we have some extra neat stuff with that. Alright, let's look at those evocation rules really quick. Just for these, so we know what those are. So room infestation, evocation cards. These are special ones for a different group. Evocations have no health points and do not take damage. However, they're considered as models. They can be targeted and eliminated through spells removed from the game. During the summoning phase, they act only as indicated on their card and attack as if they have the attack characteristic. So they're just treated as evocations that pop into the room. But like it said in there, but they're not targeted and cannot be removed from the game in any way. So, kind of like, I don't know why they really mentioned that why they use that rule when they don't follow any of the rules for that, right? Because they have no health points. So they can be targeted and eliminated, but they can't. Says during the summoning phase, they act only using evocation on their cards, and they have no cards. So very interesting that they even mentioned that. Alright, then what we have is we have some rooms. So we have the theater room. I'll just find the page here with the tokens on there. So the theater, it's kind of cool. Like, you know, Renaissance, we always have plays and stuff, so they have little trees, and that's pretty neat. And then if it gets blowing up, oh, it gets set on fire even. That's crazy. So this one says, return one of your ready anger revealed spells to your hand, and then play a ready trap from your hand. So that's kind of funny. You just swap out for a trap. That's neat. And then the other one is the Assassin's Brotherhood. So this is a red room. And if we flip that over, it gets dark. Some of the statues got broken, toppled over. And then this one says Assassin's Brotherhood. So it says, lose 1 PP, then summoning Ezio to this room. See his evocation card for additional rules. So we get to summon Ezio Auditore to the game. So I was kind of disappointed when I was reading the thing through the Kickstarter stuff. Because obviously I came in after the game had already been done. So I was just trying to see what was in there, see if this is worth picking up for me. Which definitely it was. But I saw Ezio in there. I'm like, oh, cool. He's going to be a playable character, a playable mage. You just have to make some cards for him. He's not. He's just a summon. And he kind of has some janky rules, which I'm not super happy about. But let's take a look at Ezio here. So he's got his big sword. He's got his little sleeve dagger. It's an assassin. Crest on his belt. He definitely looks cool. I'm not gonna argue with that. And they did give him a little bit. They gave him a bigger base, even though he's the same size as, physically the same size as all the rest of the characters. They just gave him a little bit bigger base, just I think just kind of like make him seem more special. So he's got a Ezio Assassin's card. And if we flip this over, it has a lot of text on here. So it says, this is his special rule. It says, Ezio does not take damage, cannot be chosen as a target, cannot be the target of effects or activate traps. When you summon Ezio, target a mage. After each action of the target mage, move Ezio one step closer to him. If the Ezio enters target's room, remove all damage from his mage sheet, move the mage to a cell and gain his trophy. Then discard this card and move Ezio from play. So, what he basically does is when you summon him, you pay 1 point, activate the room, you pick a mage, he is just going to continuously hunt this guy down until he gets to that same space, and he's going to get an automatic defeat and assassinate him. It is a cool mechanic for an evocation. I'm not going to argue that, and I don't even have a problem that it's Ezio that does it. He's an assassin. It definitely thematically makes sense. If you set Ezio on a mission, this is what he does. It would have been cool though if he also would have been a mage. And it's like that could have been, because you just, if you don't want to use him as that, just don't include that room, right? It's as simple as that. It's kind of like if he's a forgotten spell, you just take him out of the forgotten deck. But yeah, so that's kind of, it's really neat, but I do wish that he was a playable character. Or I also wish they'd had a crossover with Nova Aetus and made him a playable character in that game, because that's literally Renaissance that. They did have another Assassin's Creed type character, I don't remember his name, in there as a stretch goal. So at least they had somebody, but cool, even if he had the same exact classes and stuff, just basically here's a new model and here's a slightly different equipment or something. That would have been kind of cool as well. But it is what it is. Alright, so then the last thing we're going to look at is the crossover with Old Man Jukas for Nova Aetus. And again, this is the original Nova Aetus, not the Renaissance version. And then also for Sing Tempor. So if you have no interest in either of those, you are free to go ahead and exit the video. Thanks for watching. Otherwise, we're going to go over this. This kind of goes in theming with the ancient times, because we have a time traveler going to different parts of the time and doing different stuff. Alright, so I'm going to hop into those. Alright, so here's Old Man Jukas for Nova Aetus. I do not currently, as of this video, have the original Nova Aetus. I have Renaissance, which uses completely different cards, as multiple cards and layers. So I can't say exactly what all this stuff means for sure. I think it's probably attack, health, hit points, it looks like. One of these is probably physical attack. I think for his arms, this is probably mental attacks. And this is probably psychic things, maybe. 5 might be moving. 5 down here might be psychic. Has this badge, has this status. It says, now you see me. And if we flip him over, so you can kind of see his arm there. A little bit of crystalline glowing in there. It's not as bad as it gets some of the later games. When he starts appearing in Blood and some of the further games down the line, he actually takes over more of his body. That's pretty cool. So then we also have some equipment cards for him and some action cards. I'm not sure exactly. Well, these are equipment. Sorry, these ones are equipment. These are Destiny or lore type cards. So it kind of has status. One has a book on it for that side, and one has his equipment. Again, I don't have this game, so I don't know exactly what all of these do, but we'll take a look at them. So we have Beliar's Gift, which is a weapon. It says, attack has reach to and stun. When old Jukas attacks an enemy with the myth trait, apply -1 to their PD, so possibly physical defense. So yeah, he gets basically these attacking myth characters, because again, he has grudges with Kronos and Gaia. Double-handed, costs 2 AP. He has Vivacious Armor, +1 player hits when Old Jukas defends himself. When he suffers a wound, you may immediately place Old Jukas within a square within 3 of the enemy who wounded him. So he does kind of teleporting. And this other one is Gaia Shards. All heroes within 3 square of Old Jukas gain a defense token. So that's kind of neat. And then his other ones. He has Foresight. Each hero who starts their activation within 3 squares of Old Jukas gains 1 strength token. Kinetic Strike, which is a spell, can target up to 6 spaces. Sight of 3, target a model. Does damage. Target suffers 3 W0 and moves 3 squares away from Old Jukas. 3 wounds, probably. Yeah, I have Renaissance, so some of the terminology didn't transfer over identically. And then we have Time Block spell. Has a sight of 4, targets different mages. Each enemy within 3 squares of Old Jukas receives 1 active token, which is kind of neat, so you can kind of force them not to be able to do stuff. So that's pretty fun. And then we'll also get an activation token for him from the Horogrim. So pretty cool. So yeah, if you have the original one, you can do this. It's not going to upgrade to Renaissance, unfortunately, because they play very differently, but still pretty fun. Alright, then we have the Sing Tempor, which I also don't have, but I was reading about it, and I looked through the books. I got a little bit of information on this card, of what stuff does. So, these slots over here are for different special abilities if he wants to activate them. He just drops these. He has this big giant pile of tokens he can drop in there. He also has an activation token. Because it also uses a Horogrim momentum meter. He has the Psychic class. He has a special ability on here. He's a medium-sized figure. He has 4 health, 1 defense, 2, I think, physical attack, 5 psychic attack, and then 5 health. 4 speed. Defense, physical, psychic, and then health. So that's what that means. And if we flip to the back, nothing really special on there. But then what he has is he has this big giant skill chart he can do. So he has Fury or ESP abilities. I'm guessing the green one is the ones you have to start with if you're picking them. And then you can move into the other colors, or maybe you have to start with the blue, upgrade into the green. I'm not sure what the colors mean. Well, it's just all his different abilities and what they do. Those are matching all the different tokens he has. So, like, if I earn one of these, I can have the token. Then on the other side, it actually tells you what all these do. So he does have one special ability on here that only he has. And I'm not going to read through what all the different effects do. You can pause it if you'd like to read that. But I'm just going to read the first one and then the names of the other ones. So, the Simulacrum of Gaia. At the beginning of the mission, you must place the Simulacrum. Use core game Jukas model as it's represented within 4 squares of the deployment zone. When Jukas uses a psychic power, you can choose the Simulacrum as the new starting position regarding the range and line of sight necessary for the use of the power. The Simulacrum has a health of 5. It's not making any defense tests against enemies. So I'm consider its TB to be equal to that of Old Jukas. Interesting. So he basically has an extra model of himself. He used the core game version, which is all clad in armor and stuff, as a decoy, essentially. Then he has an Energy Leash, Energy Blow, and Mighty Energy Blow abilities, so it kind of gains us more damage. He can use Slow, Fast to speed guys up, so that's kind of a neat different one there. Then he has Pyrokinesis, Pyroblast, and Pyre, so just a little fireball attack that does more damage. Psychic Venom, side attack that puts poison. Flesh Corrupted, and then Contagion. Sign Contagion tokens. And then he has his hand ones, which are Gaia's Resonance, to move a Simulacrum any number of spaces equal to... Okay, so then that's what he does to move his Gaia around. So if you want to have focus on using that. Gaia's Emissary, and then Gaia's Gaze. It gives him an extra ability. And then his last two is I Believe I Can Fly and Time Master. So very cool. Yeah, so that's neat extra things. I don't know what the, so what are the colors? Are they match? So if we have the speed, it's in green. Nope, I don't know. So some of these are blue, they have enhanced effects. So I'm guessing that's what the little colored thing on there means. They have enhanced effects if they have the little rings around them. It must be some sort of enhanced effect. I'm not entirely sure how that works. Because they're all different shapes. I don't know if that makes a difference either. Like this full half ring versus 2 rings versus 3 small ones. Not for sure on that. But then we also have his equipment cards as well. So we'll take a look at those quick. So on the back, we're just going to have little symbols there. Nothing on the back of them. And kind of for like resourcing. Each equipment has 3 rankings. So there'll be a little rank symbol right there. So we have Vivacious Chest, which is his armor. Provides a +1 guide all defense tests against close combat, physical, so it shows these 2 symbols. Concentration during his token phase. This card does not contain any reroll tokens, place 1 on it. Can use this reroll in any test, and it's going to show for psychic class and takes an armor. And if we jump it up to rank 2, when you need to draw 1 Oblivion card, draw 2 and choose which to apply other shuffled into the deck. So you get kind of avoid some Oblivion cards, which are bad. And then we have a third one, which also gains a little armor up there. Is the actual artwork on these change? Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Gain some bigger pauldrons on there up at the top. Some different symbols on there, and then now he gains a little bit more armor. So that's cool that they even change the appearance of the cards as you go along. And it's like you basically the same thing, except now it has a little crystal, which probably has some extra effect. Then we have Gaia's Shard. So it has Oblivion Master. When it gets accumulates Oblivion tokens, roll a die. With a shield result, he requires 1 less Oblivion token, so he can get less. And if we upgrade that, now you get that little shard counter up in there. Does the same thing though. And if we get the third one, it takes even more of his arm up. Requires Oblivion token on a brain result requires one less. So he might just be able to roll that easier then. I wonder if that's what that means. And then this last one is the Sceptrum, which has a little orange and black canister up there. AP 3, range 1, battle 1, damage physical, reach 2, and stun. And then if he upgrades it, now it has Club. Yeah, so still a club set does the same thing, but now it also has Purple Flame, so it can use a Psychic test. It's a Psionic, and then if we get up to the third one, which now it gains a little crystal in there, it also has an enhanced effect to be able to do fire. So very cool. Yeah, it's kind of neat. I love the lore of the games, and I love the extra crossover stuff. It's kind of cool if you own all the games, you can get more stuff. The only issue ends up kind of being with that is when they do the things like the revised editions, where we had this game coming out with a revised edition, and none of this stuff is going to get none of these cards are going to get added to the revised edition. But even like the crossover, like we had Nova Yekis and they have Renaissance. So like since this was a stretch goal thing, they don't generally like re-update all the stretch goal or promo stuff. So yeah, he kind of got lost out there, and then I know eventually they might do a revise. They've done a revise so far of Nova Yekis, and they're doing one for Black Rose War, so I wouldn't be surprised if Sin Tempora, which is one of their, I think like their second game that came out, might get a revised edition in the future. So it'd be kind of interesting to see if, you know, they revise this as well, for people that had bought it. That's what we have for this one. This was Ancient Times. A lot of really cool stuff in there. Some cool mages, a bunch of neat evocations. Come back. If you haven't checked out the previous other SATOR box stuff, check it out. If you haven't checked out all the other expansions, hit them up as well. See you guys later. Bye.